like unto him anyone. Unity uttermost showed. I adore the might of thy breath, supreme and terrible God, who makest the gods and death to tremble before thee. I adore thee.
Because of their past behavior. I mean, all of those things are going to be new in this system. And so to try to use...
All right, my question is, it's a good question. How about when me and you, if we do meet up, we go to a Yahoo restaurant, we dine and dash, and when they ask me for the tip, I tell them, sorry, I'm not circumcised.
That's funny, but I think
so
they would
retarded,
get
my Rabbi. Illumi. Yeah.
If they were true Jews, Rabbi, they wouldn't even let you get close to the door.
I do think it's interesting, Illumi, that you saw yourself through the eyes of, like, through the experience of the Jews. You're like, oh, this is what it's like to be in exile, you know?
I mean...
When did you start to see yourself that way?
I've always, whether via Palestinian education, religious understanding, or American education.
Did you learn about the Holocaust in Gaza? Probably not.
Yeah, we are talking about the Holocaust. We're talking about World War II. We're talking about... No, we acknowledge the Holocaust. We just, they don't really mention the numbers. So, you know, there was, they talk about a genocide. So it was a Hamlet Ibada. So the Yahud Europa. And so this is mentioned. And then I think there's an estimate given, like figures talk about and something, but you know, I think the 6 million number became more apparent with like MTV and Seven Heaven Club or all that. We had Dish, we had satellite, so I was able to pick up that. And that has been, so I grew up watching MTV, and I'm talking about that MTV, which still had like the Seven Heaven, whatever club, that old guy, Satan himself in the world, you know, the representative of Satan, whatever that guy is, which I don't think he's dead yet. I mean, someone should go check on that guy. Like, why is he still alive?
Okay.
Like, fuck, that guy's a vampire.
Okay, but like, okay, Illumi, if you feel the sense of kinship with the Jewish people and their experience and their trajectory, like, why do you still, like, how do you square that with your sort of apocalyptic fantasies?
You're confused. You view Judaism as this people and whatever you kind of pseudo-manufactured. The way I see this is tradition of believers where this people kind of have corrupted a tradition, and it's all about recovering.
I don't want to get into that. I don't really care about the tradition or what Jews are, but you identified your journey in exile as...
Yeah, I'm in exile.
Through this prism of the Jewish experience and their history, right? So how do you square that with your apocalyptic fantasies of rapture and destroying Israel?
You want to hear my synthesis? Like, I've already synthesized.
Yeah, go for it.
So I view us as Israel. So you're not Israel. I'm Israel. So I am Israel. Israel is to struggle in the mission of God that is meant for the whole land, that is to usher all of humanity into this kingdom of God era, where the Sharia is prevalent, just like as the current global order is prevalent in that sense. So I believe that is to take place. And prior to that, there are going to be a few signs, and that is one of them is this fifth exile. And I believe we are experiencing the fifth exile as people indigenous to this land, as a Southern Levantine. This is an exile. So I've been exiled. You know, who's been of my lineage all the way as this far in the world? I'm the first in that sense.
Do you think the Jews were exiled by the Romans?
I think there were, historically speaking, there were Jews all around the Mediterranean prior to even Pompey showing up in Judea. So this is refusal to accept the historical academic narrative, is to refuse to acknowledge as a Jew that there were Jewish communities, vibrant Jewish communities, all around the Mediterranean prior to even Pompeii. It's also ignorance, a refusal to accept the historical academic narrative, is that the Hasmoneans are the ones who brought Pompeii, and that there was a Jewish civil war, a Hasmonean civil war. Prior to that, there was the Jewish civil war. So, the Jews have been at war with one another, with their own bureaucracy, their governing system, and it's been switched multiple times. And not only that, but they went, and they're the ones who called upon a genocidal maniac like Pompey to come and arbitrate over a civil war that has led to the death of, tens of thousands of believers, technically speaking. So this is a disaster. You could see why God would punish any community of believers over this action. So this is how I see it. I don't see it as, and so Christ came.
How do you square that with your friendship with many Jewish people on this app?
Friends.
I don't know. Are we friends? Do you feel like
I'm friends with him.
Are you friends with me, Rabbi?
I guess people take friendship as like such a very light thing. They mean like cordial. I mean, yeah, we're cordial.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I hope when you go in there, when you listen, I hope when you.
That's what friends are for. They're in times of need and all that.
Olivia.
So that's how I identify as a
All right.
friend.
Well, when you move to Gaza and when you join the warriors, you brave warriors who siege Jerusalem, just spare my sister and my niece and
I'm
nephew.
too smart for that shit. No, that's
Okay,
over.
well, just put in a good word for my sister and her kids.
That's over. There's no reason to go back to that era. That era is done for. We're in an era where Gaza is no longer going to be seized. We're back to early 2000s again. So it's going to be open. And who knows, eventually the Israelis are going to have to let Gazans access Israel proper for work. I mean, if they don't, who gives a shit?
That's all you want at Illumi is that they get to go to work in Israel?
We as Gaza, we are more than happy.
Is that the glory you want to restore? That just your dad people like your dad can work in Israel again?
No, what I want is international borders, so it's going to be better than even early 2000. But I want to showcase.
You want war. I thought you want apocalypse. I thought you want rapture.
No, you're asking me where we are eschatologically and what I have understood from my religion and looking at the literature of the people of the book.
Separate that from the immediate future.
Why do you continue to interrupt me when I'm trying to deliver the understanding? I don't know. It's just if you hate Buttercup. I'm sorry, but this cause, out of all the causes in the world, you will never separate the religious angle. And the sooner you acknowledge that, the sooner you can be part of the conversation.
Okay. I will take your word for it.
It's the facts. I'm sorry, Buttercup. It's the facts. No one goes to that land and suffers all this nonsense and doesn't have a religious bone. Come on, this is just nonsense without a religious theme taking place to make it all make sense.
Listen, I'm not claiming there's no religious element. I'm not one of those people that says it's all political.
Okay, so you understand that whether it's Jews, whether it's Muslims, and Christians to their own desire wish these events to be of meaning and ushering in the kingdom of God. This is not the end times. We're talking about the rule of theocracy as a global order under a benevolent monarch.
All right. Anyway, this has been really interesting conversation. Thanks for being so open with us. I really appreciate it.
What, you gotta go?
I kind of have to go to sleep soon.
Can we still get the room going?
What do you say?
Can we still get the room
you want to
going?
stick around, Illumi, and hang out and tell people about your...
No, I want you to hang out as well. I mean, it's Saturday.
Why? Because I'm your friend, right, Illumi?
Well, I mean, you're one of the most sensible voices on Clubhouse. I love
What'd you say?
you, Buttercup. I
Thank
love
you.
you. You're
What the
welcome.
hell is
Aw.
this? What the hell
See,
is
he does
this?
have a soul.
See, Amos's coexistence rooms are
Oh my
working.
God.
There is life in his heart yet.
This is the power of Amos's rooms, the coexistence.
What do you want to talk about, Buttercup? Or anyone else? That's fine. Go on. I said a lot. I mean, Jindib is a West Banker. He's also been
Yeah, I was
over
I was
there.
listening to your experience being a student in Gaza, and you went over a few things. Of course, we have had a different, totally different experience in terms of schooling, similar in terms of the teachers, status in the community, the society. That's in days past. That's no longer the case. And the curriculum, you actually caught up with the being taught the Egyptian curriculum. What does it usually in terms of schooling? Of course, yours is a very particular and special case in terms of you being an American. But that's for Gaza. But there are many Palestinian Americans who end up growing in Palestine and the West Bank and Gaza. But the back to the curriculum, I recall the curriculum was the Jordanian curriculum at one point, but we also, mostly the curriculum was run by the Israeli civil administration, where history was never taught, the word Palestine was never mentioned. We were never taught any of the stuff about the whole issue of Israel and so on and so forth.
Interesting.
That came later, because the entire curriculum was actually managed or run by the Israeli Department of Education. So the books actually had
Oh yeah, Lumi says he remembers that when there was Israeli books when he was really young.
Right. Yeah. So.
Jindib, what did you make of Illumi? What I find really interesting about this period in Illumi's life is they came after Oslo with this. There was all this optimism and hope, right? And then
Yes.
slowly watching things fall apart. You probably had the same experience watching things.
Yeah, those years were those years. I don't know if we were extremely naive, but they were very hopeful years in terms of the, people actually believed there is a path forward at which there was some freedom of movement for people. Things started to get different, to look different, to feel different.
Less dangerous.
For a short period of time, things, people were very, very optimistic. You started to see, Palestinians who lived, outside of Palestine start to come back and invest money and, setting up companies and building, and so there was an extreme sense of optimism that did not last for too long. But there was that feeling, the feeling of being hopeful. People traveled. We used the Ben Gurion airport more often. It just had a different sense of things. But then, just a couple of years into the thing, we started to realize that this ruse is not going to last. And then we started to deal with this new system of the so-called PA and the Palestinian government and who they brought in. And we started to take a peek at who those people are and how they functioned. And we knew, but I knew where things are, in which direction things are headed. Then, of course, the Gaza split and the Hamas, the dealing with the Hamas people and their rise to power, and the history that we are all familiar with, Dahlan and the coup of the Hamas people taking over Gaza, and things started to go kind of south from then
We had
on.
like 5 or 6 years. I think around 2000 or so is when it started. It was clear that it is over.
Yeah. it was
When
like-
Ariel Sharon came in.
It's
Right.
such a tragic.
And we started to feel that Israel is not really interested in the whole idea of so-called, the peace process. We kept hearing this term, the peace, the process. They made peace as a process. What is we started to ask questions like, a peace is supposed to happen. It's not supposed to be a process that is an ongoing, non-stop.
Yeah.
for
The process
forever.
is
And
still
like
going
like
on
he
20
said, when
years later.
Sharon came by, and he had, they always wanted a plan to torpedo the whole so-called process. And Hamas also had the same agenda. At which time, every time there was a certain movement in a certain direction, Hamas went and deployed their suicide bombers into Israeli communities, and that kind of started to bring back the right-wing Israeli elements, into the government. Netanyahu did the same thing with the Yitzhak Rabin, at which I sometimes view him as single-handedly responsible for Rabin's assassination.
Yeah.
And we started to feel how the Israeli society, how the Israelis on the right side of issues we started seeing Rabin's picture in caricature, being dressed as a Hitler guy.
What,
Even,
me and
even,
Hitler?
even Rabin's
Yeah,
wife
you
thinks
guys
that
are crazy.
Wait, Shinda, just to be fair though, like, how much do you see these spoilers on both sides fueling each other? Or do you see them equally culpable, or one side more or less culpable?
No.
There were spoilers on both sides.
Yeah, the Hamas people felt they were being squeezed out of the whole Islamist thing. They were being squeezed out of the whole so-called process. So they resorted. First of all, they actually ran for elections. They ran for elections, and they put up their lists of candidates, and they won. And that was not very surprising. I personally didn't like it, but they won the elections, and of course the Americans, the Israelis thought, and of course the PLO people thought, we can't live with this shit. So they torpedoed that whole thing, and the elections were pretty okay. They were pretty fair and square. And I thought, they would have enough wisdom to let those guys, form a government for a few years, after which they will eventually unfold and leave, and they will be voted out. But that, of course, didn't happen. The Haniya of Hamas actually formed a government for I don't know, a couple of months, and then the Americans also started to really interfere with Arafat and his.
Well, they didn't deal with the Hamas-led government at all. America and Israel boycotted
Yeah,
it.
I know. They eventually ended up, arresting most of the members of the legislative council, and they dissolved the council and so on. But also, they also started to prop up this character Abbas that we have now, and these guys kept imposing him on Arafat, and I mean that's history.
Yeah, and on the other side, shit was happening too, right? They killed Rabin, and there was all this incitement against Rabin, and the far right was rising. So this was happening simultaneously, where there was people who were refused to allow, who were spoiling on both sides, and each time something would happen, it would fuel the other extremist movement.
Well, sometimes I felt like maybe those Islamists knew something that we don't know in terms of Israel's intentions, in long term. So they were right about the Israel's intention in terms of were they actually in the process of granting Palestinians a real state, real independence, real freedom?
Do you think Rabin was sincere?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Maybe he was on a personal level, but I don't think that. I remember Shamir used to say, "We will negotiate, but we will negotiate for the next 30 years, 40 years. Who cares? We'll just negotiate."
They'll just kick the can, and that's what they've been doing ever since.
Yeah. Maybe Rabin was somewhat sincere, because he ended up under.
They fucking murdered him,
Yeah,
he
he ended up understanding that the long-term survival of the state. He had a different approach, and I guess also he had massive political support from Americans, and even the Jordanians and people in the region. He probably did understand that eventually they would have things have to change somehow. But then they ended up putting up that terrorist, and he killed him. But this current prime minister Netanyahu was out in the open saying, "I'm going to torpedo the state-to-state solution. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this," and he actually did. And
weren't there during Oslo there was cooperation. Palestinians and Jews were talking to each other. Even among the Israeli public, there was
even before Oslo.
Yes, there was, as I said, there were signs of hopeful signs for down the line.
Even just the rank
They
and
were-
file, the population seemed to want to
Yes,
collaborate
and,
with each
and,
other.
and Palestinians wanted to engage in business dealings, in making money, in building stuff, and that kind of created an environment, an economic environment amongst the Palestinians, with the Israelis, because the Israelis have the technology, and even Israeli companies started setting up shops in the West Bank to cultivate, the cheap pool of labor and so on in the West Bank. And there was those investments, and people were pretty much hopeful, thinking that, things will eventually work out.
But
But apparently the Israelis have a whole different idea or understanding what the so-called peace process is. And then we started also looking into the details of this whole process itself. Reading the Oslo Accords in terms of the Israelis recognizing, I read it, it's like they just recognize the PLO as the representative of the Palestinians. They never recognize the Palestinian state. They never in the process of recognizing a Palestinian state. They were discussing, major issues like resources, water, energy, that kind of stuff, and
Security.
everything seemed to be like so mysterious. It's not there. It just doesn't exist. So
they were, though, before Oslo, and I think this is one of the drivers for Oslo, was that Palestinians were on the ground building relationships with Israeli citizens on the ground.
there was a big, huge Israeli left movement, a peace.
Yeah.
But I'm not even talking about peace or anything like this. I'm saying like in business and just relationships.
Well, the idea of business is because both
It means
economies or
cooperation
the
and
economy.
coexistence.
Yeah, I mean the economy of the Palestinians is totally intertwined with the Israeli
Right,
economy.
and it was melding into one economy, and they were seeing signs. This is what my opinion is. They were seeing signs that the people on the ground, the societies themselves, were also beginning to meld together, and you couldn't have then
I
you would
don't
have
know
a
about the
situation.
melding together, but people
yeah.
in the peace camp in Israel, they were large in numbers, they were influential, they were also in government, and there were some characters who actually
There was also freedom of movement, right? There was no green line yet.
No, exactly. There wasn't.
There wasn't a
Jen,
wall.
you're talking about like politically left. I'm talking about just on the ground, where Israel at the time, if you remember, before Oslo, was in charge of everything. Remember, you said the curriculum, the police station,
Right,
they were responsible for everything. So all this, even the soldiers that were in the West Bank, they were eating, having their lunches in the West Bank restaurants, and so people were getting on the ground. The occupation was fading away, was dissipating, and then the danger was now it would come to a point where the society would be like, one country. We're already one country on the ground as it is, so might as well be one country, and that's the danger.
Like a pre-Oslo,
The demographic.
there was an occupation. There were less settlements, but the occupation was also responsible for the occupied.
That's right,
In terms of services, economy, and so on and so forth.
There were Israelis at one point that truly believed in peace. Maybe the government was never sincere, or they were never willing to give up control, or they had some sort of like larger Zionist.
Yes, the
vision.
Israelis.
But the people desperately believed in this. I knew these people. They believed in it. There was a time when Israelis believed in this.
Yes, there was. And I think they were very marginalized because of both the intransigence of both the Islamist Hamas and the Israeli right.
Yeah.
Because kind of Hamas made sure that this so-called peace process does not go forward. I asked myself, is it because they knew what this process is about, or they also felt that they're going to be very marginalized. They're just going to be irrelevant down the line. So to keep them, playing a role in within the Palestinian society, they started to engage in those actions. And of course, the Americans and the people in the PLO never wanted them to be part of the Palestinian society, or the politics not to be part of the Palestinian society. So we started to see this split within the society itself, in which families would say, "Are you Hamas or are you PLO? Are you Hamas or are you PLO?" And they actually planted the seed of division within the society itself based on the idea of supporting either Hamas or the PLO. And that's all that
You
this
ever watch the
accumulated stuff.
gatekeepers, like of the former Shin Bet, to talk about like how, I don't know, it's like a documentary of like ex-Shin Bet and military leaders who kind of watched Israel create the resistance through like not knowing when to stop,
Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch the
And
show,
you see
but
Ami Ayalon and all these former prime ministers who now talk very like idealistically about two states and how there's hope for the future and peace and condemning the occupation and how it's not sustainable. But it's always after the fact, Like years later, they're retired and they talk in ways that seem like they did at one point want a peace process. And it's, when they're ruling, when they're governing, they say we have to be pragmatic, we have to keep people safe. And then after the fact, they become like the most virulent, loudest voices against the occupation, against the genocide, against the brutality in Gaza, right?
right, but
these
because
voices-
because they are politicians, they want to stay in the seat of power, and they play to their domestic people, I guess.
But maybe they didn't have breathing room also, because every time they tried,
Maybe.
then something would happen and from the
Maybe.
Palestinian side, and then they had, how could they explain to the people how they're giving back land or being lax, and being weak? It's like a tough, when you're a politician, you're put in this position where you have to juggle what the mandate is from the people with like your higher ideals, it's an impossible, I don't know.
Yeah, and back to Igomi, I guess, back to the Gaza Strip. I mean, the Gaza, that's where the PLO started, sitting root, and that's where Arafat came in, right? And I remember how much money was pouring into the Gaza Strip. I've had friends who invested millions of dollars buying property in Gaza, trying to develop and build build hotels and build projects and so on and so forth. And that all of a sudden, came to a halt, and they lost their investments and they lost their money. And then we started watching the corruption of those characters who came in through after the Oslo Accords. They came from Tunisia and they came from Lebanon and from other parts of the Mideast, and they felt like some people who were from like some other planet. They were corrupt, they were hungry, they were just not up to par with the way we lived as Palestinians, because we lived under a brutal occupation. We were not looking for to get rich or be corrupt. We just kept our head down. We just farmed the land, kept the land, and things were just stale, or they stayed the same for years or end. And all of a sudden, those characters who come in, and the PLO started to set up their security apparatus. And I actually remember talking to a kid who was just enrolling in the security apparatus of the PLO, and I was talking about Arafat. And I remember him saying, like, you have to say, his honor, whatever, the president of Palestine. I said, like, who the fuck are you? Like, why am I talking about Arafat? Is just another character to me. So they were setting up this new system of government that is very similar to those, other Arab governments. And there was a character the Americans sent into the West Bank, Dayton. His name was Dayton, General Dayton, who was a CIA operative, and he was setting up this entire government system, and the whole system was concentrating on how pretty much they were training people how to fight terrorism, how to do this stuff. But eventually it became clear he's setting up just like another little dictatorial police state within the Palestinian population, at which you cannot criticize the upper economic power. You can't say anything about the leader of this government. I literally was talking to the kid, and the kid like, why are you talking about Arafat like this? You have to say his honor, whatever it is. I don't know the word.
Wow. Really?
Yeah. He's like a young kid. I was like, go fuck yourself. Who the fuck is Arafat? He's just another Palestinian, because we don't have this shit amongst ourselves as Palestinians. We did not experience living under a dictatorial Arab regime. Like, I know how it feels to go live in another Arab country at which you cannot discuss the king or the emir or whatever, the queen. You can't talk about them in public, because if you do, I know you're gonna end up, being hauled to jail. we didn't have those feelings. So all of a sudden we started to feel like there's a new government, a new dictatorial Arab government that is being, brought in, and they are training them in all those dictatorial methods.
They like elevated him
And-
above the people.
Say it again.
He was like elevated above the people. Like he.
Right. Well, not him particularly, but we started to feel that this system that they are bringing in is just a very typical Arab government system. Just
Yeah.
like another dictatorial system that they are implementing. And they were training. They were spending the money. They were also putting up roads and doing infrastructure. So new roads started to come up, all with this U.S. aid money. And things started, the geography of the place or the topography of the place started to look different. People started to be, able to go to their lands, and new roads were being, laid down. But by the same token, we started to also feel how corrupt those motherfuckers are. Those bastards are. And I used to sit down with people and I see like they're engaged in some massive, immoral shit when it comes to money, and the way they saw, an opportunity for them to enrich themselves and, pat their pockets doing some crazy stuff. Like I used to, I would sit with the district attorney of a town, and at night he would be operating like a nightclub. That's the kind of shit that we had. And I'm like, who the fuck are you? Like, how did you get to be, an influential person? You're a young guy. Oh, because my family knew so and so, or my family is related to so and so. So I was appointed to this position based on my, my father's connection with Arafat, or with my compiler's connection with somebody else. And this is the guy who was supposed to be, carrying out the laws of the land. And at night he would go operate some nightclub that, had, nefarious shit. So our society started to get an infusion of something that is different, that we're not used to. Hence, sometimes the Islamists would look at this and say, what the fuck is this? Like, why do we have this corruption? Why do we have this stuff? Although the Palestinian society is a somewhat conservative society, but it's a liberal society in many ways. We do not, in general, do not subscribe to, religious ideologues in general. But that's another story. That's another topic, probably.
Yeah, it's funny whenever the Zionists portray Palestinian society as some Sharia, fanatical Islamist society. It's even my friends who grew up Muslim in the West Bank don't have that sort of radicalism that they just, I don't even know what they're talking about. Is it lack of exposure? Just because there's a green line and they've never interacted with each other? I don't understand.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There are very limited elements of society who are zealots, who I probably, who I cannot discuss anything with, or who would describe me as like this atheist guy who's going to hell someday, or this commie person, or.
They're not doing lashes as part of the government infrastructure, right?
No. They were they would be very limited in number, and sometimes they are pretty much made fun of or ridiculed, or they're not exactly. Those very radical elements within, and then they exist in any society in general. You would make fun of them or you would laugh at them, but they were not to a degree where they are violent or they wanted to impose their, ultimate whatever laws or whatever zealous laws on your life. It never worked for them.
Even in Gaza, do they force everyone to wear hijab? Not really.
No. The Palestinian society is not. First of all, it's not a society that that can be easily intimidated into submission. Yeah, it's very hard for any force to intimidate Palestinians into ultimate submission. It just doesn't work with us, because because of the proximity of us to the Israelis. The Israelis do have an open society, right?
Yeah.
And I always look at my own society and say, if you want to learn the principles of democracy and airing out your differences, look at the Israelis. They can talk and they say all kinds of shit. They are fucked up in the head, but they have
freedom.
They have a certain degree of Western kind of style way of life in terms of democracy and so on and so forth. But you cannot subdue people into Palestinians into submission, because we have endured all this shit years on end. and we are resilient enough that we have not been eliminated by a very mighty force called the State of Israel. They haven't been able to actually get rid of all of us. Not yet. I mean, they haven't succeeded. They tried, but they haven't succeeded.
So interesting. And Lumi sees all these parallels between his experience being exiled over and over again and the Jewish experience. And I see in the Palestinian, there's so many parallels between, the survival of the Palestinians and the exile and the Jewish experience. And yet people on the ground can't see it, Like, if anything, this should be a point of connection.
Yeah, but I'm backing it up because there are events that are taking place that I believe resonate with the eschatology. So when I tell you
eschatology aside, though, people should understand.
There's a concept called fifth exile. Why doesn't that apply to believers? The Jews are not believers.
But
the Zionists are not believers.
Spoilers, no offense, Illumi. The eschatologists are the people who are spoiling.
They don't believe. They don't imagine. You know why we have a problem with the Jews? And I'll tell you the honest thing. Is that if we were in the position of the Jews in the world, we would enforce the Torah more than they would. That's the problem. The problem is the Jew is in a position to bring the Torah and the Sharia to the world and literally works against it. Not only that, spreads hedonism, spreads abomination. That's what he spreads. And this is where hypocrisy, a hypocrite is worse than a disbeliever. You can say the Christian is a disbeliever, an idolater in the God of Abraham, but you're a hypocrite. And this is what Jesus came and told you. You're a fucking hypocrite. And this is why y'all tried to kill him. That's why. Y'all don't like hearing it, but and the Jews know the worse than a disbeliever is a hypocrite. And just like the Muslims, they know it.
Can I ask this thing? How much more prophecies will it take a Jewish secular person to say, hey, something's going on. Maybe I should stop being atheist?
God talks about them in the Quran. There's somewhere that I can't figure out, but
Someone bukmun umyun, like Allah has sealed their hearts and their sights and their ears. If anyone truly understood the circumstances, you would be shivering right now. This is all happening. This is stuff that's been prophesized. This is prophecy coming true.
It's happening, and
you spread. The God of Abraham is so close to us, and you're spreading this in His sight. Are you insane? This is how we look at them. They're insane people. It was better for them to kill themselves, but they don't know yet.
Like, how could they be atheists at the same time? Like, no offense, but you have prophecies happening the day before, literally right now, and then next week there's going to be another prophecy being fulfilled, and people still carry on being atheists.
Alright, dude, I don't really care about the prophecies. I know you guys believe in it and think everything's prophetic and whatever, but I think we need to talk pragmatics, People live there, and they want to keep living there, and they want their kids to stop fighting, going to war year after year after year.
Well, when we do the cold, shrewd mathematics for you, you don't like it, Buttercup.
Okay.
At the end of the day, it's demographics.
Yeah, but I'm a heathen. I'm a heretic. I don't believe in shit. So
no. Demographics has nothing to do with the religious angle. Demographics at the end of the day. Israel is a Jewish state. To maintain yourself as a Jewish state,
I disagree
you need a
with
Jewish
that.
demographic.
Me and Jindab disagree that that's a necessity, okay?
How did Jindab disagree?
He doesn't think that, Jindab and I don't think that you need a 51% majority in Israel for the place to be sustainable and for Jews to continue to live there and thrive, okay?
That's not, we don't establish the calculus.
We think there could be a one state where everyone has equal rights and the Jews.
So why would that be called a Jewish state?
What?
Why would that be called a Jewish state?
It doesn't have to be called anything.
Okay, well, the Zionist wants a Jewish state. So you're against the Zionist project.
Binational means both.
My thing is...
It could be two things in character. It already is two things in character.
So let me get this straight.
There already are two people...
I understand you, Buttercup. I understand. You want a binational state, which is never going to happen. But You
you have your way,
think
that's true.
Ilome,
I'm sorry, Buttercup. I'll explain to you why it's never going to happen.
But why
Because
don't
you're
you
assuming
think, Ilome, hold
you're
on, I got a
assuming the
question.
colonial experience of the British with the native. That's what you're assuming. This is
Okay.
not going to be the same experience.
So it's
Okay.
not. I agree with you. But don't you think eventually, if this state, the so-called state, the Israeli state, if this state is no longer run as a state, okay? Don't you think the people of the region can?
What does that
easily
mean
just,
if this state is no longer run as a
It
state?
means like this so-called Israeli Jewish state doesn't exist anymore, okay? And there are people living on the land, right?
So you're
There are
talking
people-
about the collapse of the state of Israel.
Yes.
Okay,
That's what we want. That's what we want.
Okay, but I think the bigger question.
How are we disagreeing?
Okay, but the bigger question is: are those people who are living in this region, who are the Jewish people, of course, are they going to be in the
The
ultimate?
Amalekites are.
I don't get this Malachite stuff. Doesn't the register? I'm just asking.
I
There are
feel
people
like
who are.
And you don't want to
Harry
believe. I
Potter,
keep telling you, history
Lord of the
repeats
Rings,
itself.
with his
Fine. Repeat it.
Jindit, till this day, they don't know who the sea people are. Wallahi, in 1,000 years from today, they're going to be wondering, who the hell are the Zionists? Wallahi, history repeats itself.
Okay,
Alright,
but ultimately, practically. say
Everybody
Israel-
asks, what happened during the Bronze Age? Maybe Samson optioned the place.
So the
Okay,
thing that's
but-
going
Keep
on
your
is that
prophecies in mind, Illumi. In the meantime,
I'm just saying.
But ultimately, if the
How do you know our ancestors
if
weren't
the
more
pillars of the
technologically
state
advanced
itself,
than us?
if the pillars of the state itself is no longer around,
Look at
meaning
the pyramid.
idea of Zionism is gone. There are people who are living on the ground, who are present in the region, right? You don't think eventually they can be easily absorbed within the region as just like anybody else?
We were talking about Arabization. I've been telling you about
It's not about, it doesn't have to be
Arabization.
Arabization. You can be, I don't care. Religion can be X or Y.
You don't
and Z.
have to. You don't have to say, "Oh, we want to Arabize you," but you understand the inevitable over time,
they're
over let's say
already
a
fucking
century.
Arabized. They already eat your food.
Okay,
They
you're
already
just
speak your
proving my
language.
point.
So
They
what's
fear
wrong?
that. They hate that. Don't you see? They want to remove the Arabic from the
No,
streets.
they don't
want to
hate
do
it. They
that.
love fucking falafel
They wanna-
and shawarma.
They love the food, but they don't want to call it Arabic food, or they don't want to
love
call it
za'atar.
Palestinian food. They don't want to call it za'atar. They want to call it
No, they love their
thyme,
fucking
spice
za'atar.
thyme.
No, they like the word za'atar, I promise.
Okay,
can I ask a good question?
focus on the point.
This is a deep question.
I don't see what Jindab is saying that we're going to disagree over. He's talking about an inevitable reality where the Jewish state collapses under its own demographics, which would lead to a binational state. That's what you're talking about. Now, over time, I'm not saying we're going to throw all these Yahud in the sea. There are a lot of religious Jews who have not participated in the actions of the IDF. So these
There will be
people
justice
are
for
not
people
going to be
who did work on this,
treated.
of course.
These people are not going to be treated as the same people who feed into the IDF's manpower or auxiliary, whatever you want to
Okay,
call
I mean,
it.
whatever you implement, whatever laws you implement.
The religious
then
Jews,
just and so
we
forth.
try
Down the
them
line,
with religious law. The religious Jews will be tried under the Torah. The secular Jews who fed into the IDF will be tried under our law.
So chaos.
Every society without God collapses eventually.
No, we're not better than Muhammad.
I'm
We're
not
gonna try
offended, I was
you.
imagining a little bit more
The
organized
the trial will be like the trial of Muhammad.
I don't know about Jinda, but I was imagining a much more
So
organized
you should
justice.
hope, you should beg for international law, because the collapse of this current global order and international law will bring forth something that will not be favorable to you.
If God doesn't.
and you think that's gonna be a Muhammad law after the collapse of this current
Allah,
thing?
we're gonna sebi. They're all gonna get sebied anyway.
Who will unite these societies if it's not God?
Let's be honest. We're gonna pharaoh them. We're gonna pharaoh you. So just letting you know.
Well, I guess I'll go with the crew with the rest of them, huh?
Wudu, and you're with us, man.
Just admit it. Just say
And you're one of the Hicksas, yeah, man. Stop.
the idea you're saying.
Stop
right
coping.
now. You are talking about Sabi. You are talking about all this nonsense. There is
Humma Sabuna, do you not see what they've done to us? They have
who said
the Yahud, Jindib, do we not pay taxes to the state of Israel?
We certainly
You
do.
pay taxes to the
Okay, so someone is profiting off me without giving me my inalienable rights. So this person is literally enslaving me.
Look, I'm not saying there won't be ramifications.
Jindib, would you disagree with the description that we as Palestinian population in the territories are enslaved?
We are pretty much enslaved. But what I'm saying
Yes,
is, I'm
thank
not
you.
saying that
We're
there won't be
enslaved.
any-
They jump us. They jump us with M16s now every day in the West Bank where Jindib is at, and they literally are unaliving every single day almost.
Okay, but I am not saying. Can you hold on a second? I'm not saying.
And not only that, they're beating the almost the life out of American passport holders.
Okay, I want to hear from
Right.
Dean. Dean hasn't spoken yet.
Yeah. Okay, just hope they will not cut me. Thank you, Buttercup. And so I heard like for an hour and a half. I've been hearing everything. So it's clear to me what Illumi believes in. He's a typical ISIS supporter. The mentality, maybe not this organization, but the idea, the caliphate, the Islamic rule, everything. He even used the word Sabi. So this is pretty clear. And this is what he said actually. For the Yahud, he said there's Sabi. So Jindib was against this idea. That was, as I understood from him, he wanted coexistence with all the Jews. Like, if, of course, I don't believe in this scenario because Israel is here to stay, and Israel.
You'll only stay if it's amidst the God.
Keep going, Dean.
Well-
Ignore him.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's funny how they say Israel is only supposed to stay when it admits to God, but at the same time they cry me baby that Israel is trying to build their temple, which is the fulfillment of the basically a religious Jewish state.
No, you're
So-
you're forcing God's hand when you're doing that.
Okay, Rabbi, like, stop. Let's let Dean speak, please. Rabbi trolls a lot.
No, it's not trolling this time.
I don't care. I don't want to hear it.
I heard the others. Let me finish. So
Okay, go ahead.
yeah, thank you. So basically, what happened? The Palestinians. I heard a lot of victimhood right here, and maybe yes, people suffered in so many places. I've been part of the Peace Factory, if you know it. Ronnie Ezer-Pushpin and a lot of peace-loving people. I met a lot of Palestinians.
What is it? I
When-
don't know what that is. What's the Peace Factory?
Peace Factory is an Israeli organization that was working on peace with Palestinians and having a two states or even a single state. The idea is a Jew and a Palestinian is equal. That's the main idea. You can search Ronnie Ezer-Pushpin.
How did you get involved if you're from Iraq?
Oh, it was online.
Oh.
Yeah, it was online, and I wasn't even in Iraq back then when it happened. And I managed to meet a lot of Palestinians at that time, and many of them were great. But I started to leave at 2014 when ISIS invaded Iraq, when I started to see a lot of my so-called Palestinian friends were celebrating what happened. So it wasn't just the videos I'm seeing in the West Bank and Gaza as Iraqis were being killed, as the Yazidis were being enslaved, as the Christian houses were being marked, and all of that was happening. The Palestinians were celebrating, my friends were celebrating, and I was like, how can you be for peace and you are celebrating? Why would you celebrate killing Christians, Shiites, and Yazidis who have nothing with you, who don't even have a border with you? Like,
Can you be
I
specific
couldn't
about how they were
understand that.
celebrating, or were they just excited that someone got the West, you know? That, like, someone...
It has nothing to do with the West. The Americans left Iraq in 2012. It was completely Iraqi government elected by the Iraqis, so there was nothing Western about it. But Iraq
That is not true. Maliki is not. He was considered a dictator by the time ISIS came about. Ah, just don't lie, bro. Don't lie.
Don't you fucking lie.
Hey, man, watch your language. Watch your language. Why you getting triggered when I just mentioned facts? Why you got triggered when I mentioned a fact?
Okay, so
No,
let him explain.
I'm
I want him
not-
to
I'm
explain
saying
what
no,
exactly
you're not
they're
He
celebrating.
knows that was a Shia oppressive government under Maliki, and people in the Middle East celebrated his toppling, and that's all it is. And Maliki was toppled.
Okay, so I want to hear what his Palestinian friends
And
told him.
yes, of course, Palestinians are going to celebrate the toppling
I
of
wanna
a
hear what they
Shia
told him
extremist
directly,
government
firsthand.
because upon the invasion of Iraq, the Palestinian community in Iraq was pogromed and literally killed, raped, maimed, and sent as refugees, literally stuck on the border between Syria and Iraq. Add to that the Syrian revolution, the Palestinians till very recently were still stuck in no man's land on the border. So that's the demise. That's the demise that the Palestinians suffered in
Okay,
Iraq,
thank
and
you for the
anybody can
context,
Google this.
Amy.
Anybody
Thank you for
can
the
Google
context.
this.
Thank you for the context, Dean. I want you to tell us your friends. I assume they're pretty moderate if they're trying to make peace. Why would they celebrate it?
I didn't understand it, but yes, he actually said it. It was the Shiites failing, it was the Sunnis rising. That was the idea. They didn't care that it was an extreme Sunni radical group. That basically my friends, like, they would go with their families to the beach, wearing bikinis, all of that, and at the same time, that's something that baffled me with the Muslims. Like, they would be extremely secular, but when the Islamists take over somewhere, they would like start supporting and everything and start talking about the glory of Allah, blah blah
So
blah.
what do you
all
make of
that.
it? What do you make of it?
Bullshit. And your understanding of things to be extremely shallow, by the way. Very shallow.
This is my experience with them. and,
Whatever your experience
basically-
is, you're articulating in a very shallow way, and your understanding of issues seems to be very
Okay.
shallow.
Let
You
me
just
finish.
give it up,
This is
Shia,
like something
Sunni,
between
Christian,
do you have something
Palestinians
between
celebrate the
your
death
head?
of Christians and Shia. Bullshit. That's correct.
There's the thing, the Yahud will say anything but the truth.
Well, I'm actually not just Yehudi, just so you know. So, shut up and let me finish.
Not just Yahudi, not just. You're telling me I'm a Yahudi. I said, get out of here, bro.
He's probably a Moloch as well.
Yeah, this guy sounds like he's full of it. You're so full of it.
Yeah, it's just like I want to be part of this.
There's no
Sorry,
shackles
let him
here.
speak. Guys, enough. Let him speak. He had an experience, and it sounds like Illumi, you actually agreed with him about the perspective of Palestinians and rooted.
I did it not in the way that he described it, but yes, there was, again, I'm telling you, this is like prior to even ISIS actually knowing what it is. There is a Sunni revolution that took place in Iraq, and a lot of the West tries to hide this under ISIS and extremism or Islamic extremism because it wants to showcase, because they want to hide the failure of the American campaign in Iraq. That's what it is. They want to hide the
Okay, we
failure.
want to get divorce perspectives on this. Dean, this is his personal experience. You shared your personal experience.
I didn't share it yet. They're not
Okay.
letting me share anything. He's cutting me. He literally said.
Well, we let you go, bro. You spoke, and then Jindib responded, and then I responded.
Okay, he
Complaining.
told half the story. Let's finish the story. He was shocked by his Palestinian friends' reactions. Go on.
Yeah, so that was one thing, and when I told one of my friends was actually a bit, he didn't like support or not support, and a lot of people were like in his page and supporting it, and they were telling him, why aren't you talking enough about what's happening there? And there was someone who was really radical, so I commented on the radical friend. So my other Palestinian friend, who has the main page, he messaged me and he told me, please don't reply to them. But you are seeing this is terror and everything. And he was like, yeah, I know, but what can we do? This is a mentality we have here, and we have a lot of it. So even he acknowledged it, and he has to be neutral, as he told me. He has to be neutral. Like, he wasn't supporting ISIS at that point, but most of his friends, his cousins that were living in Jordan and the West Bank, were supporting it, and they were tagging him, and he was basically silent in the celebrations and everything. He wouldn't like support it or anything, but I witnessed this basically after that was part of the Peace Factory, because without the Peace Factory, I wouldn't have this exposure with them, because I had limited exposure as a kid with Palestinians, and basically they were diaspora and not really involved in politics. They were in the Gulf, so the Gulf region, they don't really go deep into politics. As Jindal also explained it, like as he said, they have dictatorships, so they avoid talking over their. But others, maybe in the West, it's a different story. Anyways, so.
So you mean to tell me
Now,
Palestinian? You mean to tell us? You
Palestinian
mean to tell us Palestinians support the idea of ISIS? So you
yeah,
do.
there were a lot of Palestinians and not
Please.
Palestinians.
Listen,
Israeli Arabs, Muslims also.
Dude, I would have probably.
If you ask Palestinians, do you support ISIS? The majority are going to tell you no.
I've never met a Palestinian that supports ISIS. It sounds crazy to me.
But if he means at the beginning days of what was the revolution in Iraq and the state of toppling, if he's talking you again the toppling of Maliki's got you keep speaking over me. You complaining. Every time I bring up this point, he gets triggered. At the end of the day, anybody can look this up. You can AI this right now. You can go Maliki's government prior to the rise of ISIS, and you're gonna get that it was a Shia extremist government and a lot of and there was a sectarian tension and ISIS is pretty much a Western formation or attempting to bottle in this revolution by demonizing it, by giving it structure. That's what they attempted. But at the end of the day, the revolution the revolution in Iraq pretty much failed because they are about to reinstall al-Maliki again. They're about to reinstall.
I would have supported the idea of Maliki.
Meanwhile, the revolution in Syria succeeds. Subhanallah. How this happened, no one really knows.
Okay, listen, there were strange bedfellows when all this was going down, right? Like all these. Okay, Jinder, you wanted to say something?
At the end of the day, you can cry about ISIS all you want, but here we have Ahmed al-Shari ruling over Syria, who is affiliated, who was affiliated.
If you don't care about other people,
And he's shaking hands with Trump and top world leaders and Putin and all of that. So, this scare tactic of ISIS and all that disappeared off the window when Ahmed al-Shari took over Syria. That disappeared.
You like ISIS?
No. I refuse to continue to be demonized by the term ISIS or by what ISIS is or Islamic extremism or the notion of it. There's no such thing as Islamic extremism. The pursuit of Islamic unity and Muslim unity and the return of the state structure and the return of the state structure that was part of the Ottoman Empire literally in the 1900s is nothing to scoff over and nothing fanatical and nothing crazy. We're not trying to bring back a national project from 2,000 years ago. We're literally trying to bring back a national project from literally the 1900s. Shut the fuck up. Stop panicking. You sound like a homosexual. I doubt you. And then you claim you're a Jew. You don't even believe in God.
See, Buttercup, when you try to show any truth, they
okay, but you didn't attack him. You called him ISIS, okay?
You
called him ISIS, so now he's reacting.
He supports the idea of caliphate because this is what he said.
All Muslims do, clown. All Muslims do. 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 That's like saying Jews don't believe in the kingdom of God. Like saying Jews don't believe in the coming of the Messiah and the kingdom of God. Like everyone does. Everyone believes this. You're such a clown.
We don't need to identify what he is. We all know.
He's a clown. I know.
Yeah, like
we all know what it is.
And I'm a Jew. I'm part Jew. But look at that. You're a dirty Iraqi. You're a dirty brown Iraqi from the desert. Fucking sand comes out of your ass.
Sorry. You can come back up when you learn to behave and not insult people's race and identities. Go ahead, Dean.
Gosh, this is like exhausting. I don't know how you can handle.
But literally, don't attack him. We all know what his views are. They're very extreme. He believes in eschatology and fucking end times prophecies. Who cares? Move on. Next.
Yeah, sorry, I kind of forget what I was like.
You were telling me about your Palestinian friends who you were surprised by their political shift.
Oh yeah, that.
And you made the jump that they support ISIS. Do you think
yes, and then there was the main
ISIS?
page, a group was. I basically screenshot everything at the time. There was a main Gaza page. It was day and night talking about Iraq, what's happening in Iraq, and basically glorifying what ISIS were doing. Even when they started to kick out the Christians and the jizya, all of that, happened, and then the massacre against the Yazidis, the genocide that happened actually a few days ago. It was the memory. There were actually two genocides, one on 14th of August, and the main one, the invasion, was on the 3rd of August. And yesterday there was another one, basically multiple explosions that targeted Sinjar, the stronghold of the Yazidis, in 2007. I think in 2007, it was in 2007. And even then, a lot of Palestinians in camps celebrated because at that time they said it was a revenge for a Muslim girl that was killed by Yazidis. So there was this propaganda that was spread at that time that there was actually something bad happened, and the whole Yazidi community condemned it. There was a girl that basically ran away with a Muslim.
Excuse me, but does Pepe ever stop taking Adderall and ever stop talking on this app all night long, all day long? Is anybody else out that have Pepe fatigue? I've got Pepe fatigue.
Okay, so continue.
You know how he says he got black fatigue? Well, I got Pepe fatigue.
Yeah, I mean, I can picture them saying a lot of this stuff. At the end of the day, if you look at some of these ESA activists have said
I'm sorry.
video conferences, like how they said.
Dean, so you had an experience with your Palestinian friends on the line, and then you saw the way some Palestinians bought into some conspiracy theories, right? Like people who come from low-income backgrounds, often many marginalized communities are susceptible to conspiracies and rumor, right? Like these type of.
And they always start shouting Allahu Akbar, glorifying their success. Whenever
Well, Allah Akbar is just God is great. Is there something wrong with God being great?
Yeah, but when you are killing others.
So you're saying Palestinians do that? We're talking about Palestinians, not ISIS.
Yes, I'm talking about Palestinians. And actually, there was. I will go back to what Ilumi said about the Palestinians being kicked out of Iraq. It's actually, I went to the camps that were in Syria and Jordan. At that time, I was sympathetic with them. But I started to hear also the stories from Iraqis, what happened. Those Palestinians were actually part of Saddam's elite units. They were actually part of the massacre Saddam was committing against the Shiites and Kurdish populations in Iraq. So basically, they were the secret police, the Gestapo that.
Shut the fuck
Saddam
up.
had.
Shut the fuck
You
up.
shut the fuck up.
You shut the
Everybody
fuck
knows
up.
it.
You sound like a
Everybody knows
fucking. He called you a clown, like you're real a food clown too. You're not just a clown. You're a fucking fucking ass clown.
Okay, so listen, Jindib is Palestinian, let him respond, okay?
Shut the fuck up. Come on. Just stop fucking
Jindib,
lying.
just respond to his claims, because listen.
There's nothing
Jewish
to
people
respond
also-
to. This guy is a fucking clown. He's just a fucking clown. There's nothing to respond to. There's nothing to discuss with this guy. Okay? It's as simple as that. He's a simple-minded fool. That's what he is.
You're smearing a whole population because of a few.
No, this
Palestinians.
particular character is a very simple-minded fool, okay?
Alright, fine. Look, that's fine. Benny, you want to come up? Anyway, Dean, you want to talk about your evolution?
Yeah,
and how you,
these refugee camps had women and children. You think these Palestinian women and children were the Gestapo of the Saddam regime?
They were the families.
Yeah, exactly. So you punish the families, even if it were true. By the way, not even true that all of these Palestinians were the Gestapo of the Saddam regime. That's fucking bullshit. It's the same bullshit that they use when they said that Hamas was the Gestapo of the Morsi. Hold on. They said that Hamas was the Gestapo of the Morsi regime when they wanted to overthrow Morsi. And people bought that shit. Really, 100 million Muslims, and you couldn't find anyone to protect you, except for these guys in Palestine. Same thing. Iraq, 40, 60 million people, and you couldn't find anyone to protect you, except the Palestinians? No, man, what you're saying is absolute fucking bullshit. It's not true. And not only is it pretty rare. Hold on, let me finish. Not only is it pretty rare to find Palestinians like Ilumi that have this kind of ideology, more importantly, with regards to ISIS, not only did Palestinians not support ISIS, right, en masse, In addition to that, I find it very, very hard to believe that Palestinians that you were involved with in a peace initiative that wanted to coexist with Israelis supported ISIS. That I find almost impossible to believe.
Yeah, this guy's full of shit. He stunk up the whole fucking universe. You're so full of shit, dude. You're a clown.
Well, you're full of shit. If I want to make a story.
No, you are a fool. You're a lying fool. You're a lying, and you're not a good liar
But
either.
I'm telling the truth.
You have your lying skills are lacking, dude.
Yeah, because I'm not Palestinian. I can't lie.
No, it's just
That's
a
the
liar.
truth.
It doesn't matter what you are. You're just a plain old fool. You're just a fool. You're like a clown fool, like a fool. You're just a fool. You sound like a fool and you're a clown. You're a liar. That's all.
But
So you want to
Dean,
the
listen,
refugee
Dean,
camp?
you're making a lot of generalizations about Palestinians based on a
Did
few.
you hear the whole time how he was they were generalizing about the Jews the whole time? Like he wasn't even saying Israelis. He was saying Jews the whole time.
Who?
The
Illumi?
Islamists. Yeah.
Well, Illumi we know is an Islamist. Yes, he has extreme views.
So yeah, I even didn't.
We don't dispute that he's an Islamist. That doesn't mean.
I was basically.
Again, you're confused. So his claim he came in, I'm just bashing him. I know everything he's doing is a hocus pocus, but the claim that a Muslim believing in the caliphate is an extremist view, well, I mean that's just the religion. The Muslims believe in the return of the caliphate. Literally, this has been prophesied. If you're a Sunni or a Shia, you believe this. So if this is considered an extreme view and he persists on calling this extremism, then he's just saying Muslims are extremist or the Muslim ideology is extremist, and hence he is Islamophobic, and hence he needs to be treated accordingly.
This fucking retard is a weird loser.
I'll just kick you in the ass and you'll run away like a dog that you are.
Damn.
Because أنا بمشيك زي الكلب, and you know it. I would take off my belt and I would put it around your neck and I would make you walk.
Hey now.
Yeah, that's actually what you did.
No, that could have gone much worse. I'm actually how like.
I don't think I could continue with this.
I definitely control myself there.
I understand. No worries.
I hear them and I speak. That later they will.
Can you just explain to me how you're part Jew? Can you just explain to me how you're part Jewish?
Yeah,
I just would like an explanation.
Yeah, I want the.
Yeah, he said he's part Jewish.
Fine. You guys want him to tell your story? You cannot interrupt.
We're not going to
You
interrupt
cannot
if
talk
he
in 10 seconds,
focuses
okay?
on how he's part Jewish.
All right, Dean. You identify with your Jewish roots and you sympathize with Israel. How did you come to this conclusion? Give us the end, the rest of the story.
Sorry, which conclusion? I didn't get.
You sympathize. You went from trying to make peace and coexistence to sympathizing with Israel and not believing in coexistence, and to identifying with your Jewish side. How did that happen? Tell us a little bit more in short.
Yeah, it happened basically gradually because like my heritage is also the non-Jewish heritage is actually Alawi, and a lot of places like in Iraq and Iran we have to go as Shiites and not mainstream Alawis, even though basically you can't convert to Shiism from Alawi. You are considered a Shiite, but if they hear that you are Alawi, you are basically an infidel, and it's a whole stupid, crazy dynamic. I don't even know how to explain this crazy theological things they have. I mean, that's within the same group, and there's this, and he is they're from a different group.
So were you affected by Islamism yourself as your family and your upbringing? Is that
Well,
what you have
no.
this
I was
sensitivity?
brought up in a pretty secular environment. My neighborhood was Christian, Druze, and Muslim. So,
Did you get along with the Muslims?
Wait,
like, why do you have
Druze
all
and
these feelings?
Wait, who was that?
I have origins from Iraq. My fathers have Iraq.
Where did you grow up?
I was born in Iran, and I grew up in Lebanon. Okay, so.
Okay, so what's your experience with Islam?
Yeah, he's a Persian Lebanese.
Yeah.
ده بتحكي عربي؟
لا هذا من عند
Guys, can you speak American?
هذا من جيش الحرب. هذا من جيش لحد.
Yeah, you get it?
Actually, he has to be. He has to be. He has to
You
be.
see what I'm saying, guys? But
I'm
Allah, why-
definitely
wow.
sure هذا جيش لحم.
I had a feeling. I just didn't want to bring it up because I
No, he
I
probably,
was
he's
wrong or
not
something.
actually, guys, he's not actually, he's too young. I'm just saying, like, he aligns with that kind of.
He's probably
What
a
are they giving
descendant.
you up
He's
to?
probably a
Let me tell you
descendant.
what they are saying. Buttercup. Let me
No,
tell you
no,
what
he's not a
they're saying that
Okay, guys, pause. I want to hear him explain.
army. And
You're saying you're part of Assad, right?
No, we said Lahad, Jesh Lahad.
no, it's the South Lebanese army. SLA.
It's like a small army of Lebanese people that formed during the Civil War to support Israel.
To defend
And they were
their
traitors,
rights.
essentially.
Okay,
And
okay.
they were traitors. They were dealt with such.
Oh, yeah,
They
I
were dealt
remember
with
this.
as
Yeah, I
traitors.
remember.
And then they got kicked
And they were
out.
taken refuge, right?
A few of them were given refuge in Israel.
Yeah, okay, I remember. Okay, go on.
And now, by the way, Lebanese parliament, Lebanese government, I think just passed a law saying that they're allowed back in. And they're going to be given.
Yeah, they give him amnesty. So go back.
Yeah.
Wait, I want to hear him to respond to allegation. You made an allegation. Go ahead, Dean.
Yeah, no, I'm not part of it. Like, I'm too young to be part of that and lived in Lebanon. If I was part of that, I probably would have been lived in Israel my whole life, not Lebanon. So I wouldn't even have.
No, I know you're not actually part of it.
So how do
What were
you
you
say I'm part of
being
that?
part of the
No, I'm just saying like the same ideology. That's it. Like the same way you called Lumi ISIS, I'm calling you that. It's the same.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's actually a battle of pride.
Oh sure, yeah. If you think the most treacherous paramilitary force in our recent history is a badge of pride, then you go for it, bro.
Yeah, it's
Halala.
This is
I have a lot
interesting.
of friends from them. They were defending their lands. They didn't kill Lebanese. They were.
They didn't kill Lebanese?
Palestinians.
Are you
Interesting.
insane?
Oh, this is interesting.
They only tortured them.
Dean accused Illumi of sympathizing with ISIS, and Illumi took it as a badge of pride. You guys accused him of being part of this, what's this group called again? LOE or...
No.
Okay.
It's the South.
I wouldn't take it as a badge of pride. Like I
I
already
think it's a
told
badge of
you,
pride. So
my
the-
understanding
the
of
South is
ISIS
thinking-
is that it is a foreign capitulation of the revolution that took place in Iraq to demonize it, to continue the war in Iraq. That's what it was, to extend it further. That's what I believe. ISIS is mainly, no one knows what ISIS is. Every country that had
You're not
some
into
black
beheadings and
ops,
shit, right?
every country that had black ops on the ground used the ruse of ISIS to operate.
But Illumi, the beheadings
And
are
as
kinda
you
fucked
see
up,
with Ahmed al-Shadr, he's
What about the
affiliated
kidnapping
with a
of the
specific
patriarch?
branch that identified with ISIS. ISIS is an ideology that seeks to propagate the caliphate. Now, different groups took on the mantle, and different groups clashed over who gets to hold the banner of this project. But at the end of the day, we got the conclusion of that. Ahmed al-Shadr is the de facto authority when it comes down to
Okay, but why are
anyone
they
who
selling
wants to
snuff porn?
affiliate
Why do they
with
love
that
snuff porn
project.
and okay, the snuff porn and the beheadings is a little problematic though, right? With ISIS?
Again, all of that, the Baghdadi stuff, that's CIA. I don't believe that was ever all those that was MI6, so MI5, MI6, MI5, CIA.
Wait, hold on. Illumi,
We saw the
but you're
British
claiming-
accents.
Hold on, but
Those
you're
guys are
claiming.
all
Wait,
intelligent.
but you're claiming Giuliani is like a victory
ISIS.
of this thing, right? But
Yeah,
he was part of ISIS. He was under Baghdadi, and he was, by the way, and it was his group specifically after he broke apart from ISIS that kidnapped the patriarch in Aleppo. They've done some pretty fucking horrendous shit. Like you can't tell them.
Everything is under
the
Shudder. Everything he has.
Yeah, and listen, don't get me wrong. I would still, like, I've stuck for a lot, and as an ex-Muslim, I'm telling you that I would still rather fight with ISIS than that. ISIS is still better than Lahad.
Of course,
I
ISIS
agree with
is
you on
better
that,
than Lahad,
right?
of
But that does
course.
not mean ISIS is good by any
But
stretch of the
ISIS is not.
imagination.
You cannot.
ISIS
you
and
cannot
Jabhat
compare
al-Nusra
ISIS.
specifically.
You cannot
If you want
compare
Jabhat
ISIS.
al-Nusra specifically,
You cannot
la, la, la,
compare
la.
ISIS to
No, no.
Lahad anyways. As structure, as an
This room got really
organization,
dark.
they're not comparable.
Me and Jim
Like
didn't want to coexist in some
Lahad
peace,
is
guys.
an
No,
army.
I'm just saying, like, if you're gonna
Lahad
fight
is
for
an
one of
army.
them,
A room full of military.
Lahad is an
I'm
army
just saying, if you're gonna fight for one of them, I would still fight for ISIS
that
over
has
Lahad.
officers,
I agree
that
with you on
have
that.
ranks, that
However,
have general.
it doesn't matter. The point is that,
ISIS
however,
is
you
just a
cannot
bunch of
deny,
groups with machine
you cannot
guns.
deny, not only, you want to say ISIS, oh, it's a catch-all term, whatever. Okay, look at Jabhat al-Nusra specifically, right? And look at what they did in Syria and in Iraq, by the way, before they formed it.
Jabhat al-Nusra, there are two.
Look at just what they did in Syria. No, there was a lot
There's
of
that
fucking
group that
atrocities.
is funded
There
by
was-
Saudi
there was-
Arabia,
there was,
and then there was the group that is Jabhat al-Nusra,
I'm talking
which
about
broke
Jabhat
away.
al-Nusra specifically.
Yeah, Jabhat al-Nusra broke
Well,
away from
they-
ISIS.
Sure, but even then, even after they
No,
broke away,
it's
that's
just
I'm trying to
what
explain.
does this prove?
Even after they
my
broke
whole
away,
point
they
is that
still
ISIS
committed
is not
acts of
this
terrorism.
one head organization. You can see that there are many
Okay,
groups
even
that
if-
split
okay,
from
fine.
affiliation with
Okay,
ISIS after
fine.
ISIS.
Even if that's the case, you're still avoiding that there are specific organizations like Jabhat al-Nusra that have very well documented committed acts of terrorism and specifically sectarian acts of terrorism.
Again, everything has context. We're talking about the Syrian revolution, which was a straight up disaster.
Dude,
so
they went and just kidnapped the fucking patriarch of the
I don't know the
Orthodox Church.
justifications for that. I mean, I don't
They
know.
wanted
I
jizya.
remember hearing
They
about
wanted
that, but it wasn't.
So, but
Hey, man, if they're right.
Do you both agree that the whole idea of ISIS and
What am I gonna offer you protection, and I'm gonna protect your
the
territories, and what, and no return?
And the elements of ISIS were organized, financed, and propped up by foreign entities. Now, hence we see the result of ISIS operations in the region. A Shara came riding on a tank, on a Western tank, a Turkish tank, and so on. They tell us who those ISIS people. We don't know who those fucking ISIS people were. When we see, what was it? What was that U.S. senator taking pictures with the early people of ISIS? What was his name?
John
McCain,
McCain,
right?
John McCain,
Yeah, John McCain.
yeah, John
Yeah,
McCain,
Yeah.
the presidential candidate, who ran against Obama.
He was being photographed with those elements of ISIS in Syria, northern Syria. And you're telling me those ISIS are Islamist people? They're Islamists?
Yeah, bro, I am not going to sit here and condemn ISIS in accordance to the Western narrative. That is never going to happen. And so if people want to call me ISIS all day, you can. I don't agree with the disorganization. I don't believe in people piling up into an ambiguous organization over a banner, over some nostalgia. So I believe a lot of those people got goofed. And if I actually truly believed, I would have been one of the people that went there. I did not believe in an organization that we don't know who the head of it is.
Foreigners. Makes sense. You were asking questions. You don't know anything. You don't know anything about your own country. Why you come in here lecturing us about ours?
If you're unwilling to understand the concept I'm trying to, this is a pretty basic concept about Canada. Like, it's something you learn pretty quickly about Canada when you learn about our system. I find it I don't know why you want to push back on it. We're not really ruled by.
We've had rights and freedoms for 150 years. Clearly, that was either a lie or you didn't know. You've only had rights and freedom.
Yeah, as soon as I muted up, I was like, oh no, the Constitution is much younger than that. Prior to that, when we had another document, I could look it up. But I'm just more familiar with the Charter of Rights and Freedom.
Girl, did you know it is the oldest country in the world?
You think America is the oldest country in the world?
Yes. Yes, we have had the longest standing government that has not changed over. I mean, look at your shitty ass country's only existed for 44 years. But your current system, your current setup. Our setup, we're 250 years old, bro. When you look at these other countries across the world, I mean, think about this. Russia, what is known of Russia, only came about in the 1990s. The oldest constitution public standing in America, or in the world. We were the oldest.
Okay.
Longest running, and all these other countries followed suit after we did.
That's record of governance of one regime, I think, that you said. Not the record of standing of the country.
It's like, and like I don't even like. It's not even a pushback. It's just okay. You just said like verbatim. You said, I want to get it right. That the USA is the oldest country in the world. You said the oldest country, and then after I called you out on it, then you changed your terminology and you said the oldest continuously operating national constitution, which are two different types. Now, that's fine. I get it. Like, I actually get what you did there. It's fine. I mean, I'm Coco's done. I know Coco's going to freak out. But what you did there, I get it. I get what you did. It's similar. Like, it's like you can make that mistake, and I get it. I'm not mad at you. But I feel like if I were to have done that, I'd hear about it from you for the next 20 minutes about how I don't know what I'm talking about because I said the oldest country in the world. That's what you do. You do that all the time.
I'm not that petty, bro. You're just being petty now. Literally, everyone knew what I'm saying. Yes, we're very familiar.
You're doing it to me about the constitutional monarchy.
We're very familiar that humans have existed for thousands of years in the Middle East, and not as many humans haven't existed in the West. We're familiar with history. However, I'm explaining to you, in the current standing, in the world we live in right now, America is the longest tenured country in the world. Find one older. They haven't changed their government and changed the structure of their society, largely based on how successful America is.
Such a weird claim. Like, okay.
I pronounced your name correctly. I think the reason why you think it's a weird claim is because you do not look at the fact that there's 195 countries, right? Most of those countries actually change their constitution every 17 years. Every 17. What Joe is trying to explain to you, we in the United States of America, our republic, has been intact under the same document for 250 years. That's the longest standing constitution in the history. That's what he's telling you. So when you have a